hello. Oh my gosh, we had a little technical difficulty here. Welcome to another temple chat, to week 2 or session 2, whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna give space for everyone to kind of jump on and join us this morning. Happy Sunday. How are we all doing? It's a beautiful, beautiful day here in St. Louis. I'm just gonna burn a little dragon blood sage to get us started here. Yeah, so, okay, here we are, jumping on. Say hi whenever you land in this space with us, and I hope you'll stay for the entire chat today. I have something really, really delicious for us today. It's gonna be really deep, maybe even a little intense, which I know most of you really enjoy. And I'm rolling solo today because my husband is out of town at a football game with a friend in Pittsburgh, having so much fun because he has never done that before. So I'm really excited for him, and I told him not to worry, I'll keep the show going. So today I wanted to talk with you all about original innocence. And I know last week we kind of talked more superficially about the retreat that we just did and the building of this space that I'm in right now. I'm literally in our temple. Like, these are the stairs that you have to climb down because we are in an underground temple. And we'll do some lighter and more fun ones, but this past week, there has been so much coming up for me personally around, and even just like since the retreat, like around my own original innocence. And this has been a multi-layered journey that I've been on since, I don't know, at some point, like, well, who's to say how long it's actually been making its reclamation. Some things are really hard to see as they're happening in the moment, which is why I wanted to share some of what I've recognized in my own journey with you all today. And hopefully you can see yourselves and maybe where some of this has occurred for you and where you're at in the process, and really like why it's so important. This is not a conversation that is had very often, and yet it is at like the crux of our innate worthiness and our own sacredness. So let's see, where do I want to begin? I think I want to talk about what original innocence is quickly. And it's really just that like innate purity, like our childlike innocence, you can kind of think of it as. But it's not the purity that we would traditionally think of it in our culture or in our world, where it's like, it's the, it's the virginal innocence. It's not that, because virgin actually doesn't even mean what we think it means. So much of our language has been distorted from its original, like from its origins and how it was actually, what it actually meant. And what I mean by like purity is that all energy, all life, all creation is innately pure. And being pure is like, it's not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. It just is. It's just free. And then we distort it and then we make it mean things, and then we exploit it and misuse it and abuse it. And then the creations, right? Whether that's our energy, whether that's our youthfulness, whether that's our love. And then it becomes what we know it to be now. I'm using all natural light, so it's like dimming in and out. So I kind of am like liking the effects here. So it's like, it's perfect, right? Where it's like a little shadow, a little light, right? Like a little blend of both, of course it is. So what I found was on my journey of healing and returning back to myself is really just been such a remembrance, and where I have found that like such a great deal of my actual unworthiness lied was in the loss of my original innocence. Is maybe someone making it wrong or bad, or through sexual assaults or sexual abuse, or through someone telling me that it wasn't okay to be who I was. And in that process and in that, I created all of this like unworthiness. And that I'm just speaking from this lifetime, but as I have gone deeper, what I have found is that this is a wound, and this is an experience that I have had lifetime after lifetime. I've actually been able to recall in certain work, like private session work, and access these like soul memories where things happened and I made decisions that who I was not okay, that it was not safe to be me, that I was like not worthy of the love of my beloved or of my power. And there were many, many, many great abuses and distortions that occurred. And in that process, I have slowly been coming back to that remembrance, to that original innocence. And one of the defining moments, there's been many, but one of the defining moments was during, I will say, a session with my husband where he was facilitating. It didn't originally start out that way, but we have a lot of very shamanic, mystical experiences during our sacred lovemaking experiences. So he ended up doing just some yoni gazing, and maybe then followed by a yoni massage. I can't remember the particulars at this point, but I just remembered having this moment of feeling that innocence return to me. And this thought coming through of, they can never take it. No one can ever take this from me again. And it was such a beautiful moment and so profound that it's become a foundational piece of my work. And for those of you who are attracted to the work that we're doing, it's walking the priestess path. It's returning to divine union within, and then therefore divine union in all of our relationships. And, it's alleviating the inner conflicts that can happen within the parts of us, specifically the masculine and feminine, but there are many, many parts of us that we work with. The masculine and feminine just being a couple of the archetypal pieces or energies that we work with and that we all have and embody. So that was a really profound moment. There was another experience that I had, and I think that a lot of you can maybe recognize where someone manipulated you and took advantage of you, maybe coerced you. Maybe there was even like a plot and a ploy that got you to do something that you wouldn't have done otherwise, but like you became a target of this because they wanted something from you. And maybe you were too naive at the time, right? I find a lot of us who have really pure hearts and at our core, there is often that innocence and naivete about us, but also because we haven't fully embraced the purity of our darkness yet. And then we become the prey to the predators, right? And because we have rejected our own inner predator and only embrace the light within us. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But as we do, because it is a very harsh truth to understand the parts of us that are also predatory. And here I am talking about innocence and having these predatorial aspects of ourselves, but they all exist within us, every single one of us, right? It may be very deep within your like unconscious, and it may not be in your conscious awareness, but we all do this to some extent, and some much more harmful than others. But anytime it's in the shadow, it's going to express, and not the healthiest way. So it's a really important aspect of reclaiming this innocence, right? And as we have went into and explored even more of the darkness of ourselves, we've been able to reclaim the innocence of it as well, and alleviate that shame, because that's what happens. Like, I find that often, most times for women, the women that I work with, as we've experienced some kind of, usually some kind of sexual trauma, it could be even just something really mild to something extremely brutal and extreme. It could be something that we honestly didn't even know that happened to us that did, and it robbed us of that innocence. It took something from us. It maybe darkened our heart a bit, or hardened us, or just coated us with immense shame for who we were and who we are. And I'm going to share another story about that of myself here a little bit later in this on this talk here today. But there's another experience that I had where it was a return to innocence experience, and it was about a year ago in the summer. I did a plant medicine journey, and I've talked of this journey, but I've talked of this journey many times, but it was so significant for me because Lilith came to me, and she held her hand out, and she said, "Come with me. I'm going to take you to the Garden of Eden." And I said, "I do not want to go there. I don't want to see him." Like, I was like, I do not want to see Adam. I want nothing to do with him. But she took me there, and she had me purge my shame. Still to this very moment, it brings up emotion for me. And I just remember the message coming through was, "I will not carry your shame anymore. I will not carry your shame anymore." And it just kept repeating and repeating and repeating. And I literally, like, physically purged the shame out of my body. Now, of course, there's many layers to this, but it was a deep one. It was a really, really deep one. And it opened me for some immense and beautiful healing, and being able to, you know, I think that experience, I was shown so much in that experience. It allowed me to open my heart as a result of that, purging that shame. It allowed me, oh my gosh, I'm going to get so emotional. I wasn't expecting this. It allowed me to open my heart and receive the Dragon Mother as myself, to receive the embodiment of her for the first time, because I could not receive her with all of the shame I was carrying. And all of that shame I was carrying had prevented me from receiving my own love, my own worthiness, my power, my mission, support, and it prevented me from receiving, like nourishment and the help of others. And that opened me to a whole other paradigm of life. It opened me to a greater embrace of my femininity, my feminine energy. In fact, this morning I actually just sent, like, I've never done anything like this before, because I've always been one of those, I will do it on my own. I've got this shit. I don't need anyone. Right? And what that journey taught me was, and literally it's that they said to me, I say they, because it was like I could sense many beings, many ascended masters, many of my ancestors and guides, and them saying, let us hold you. Let us hold you. And I said, I know I need to do that, but I don't know how. I don't know how. And in that process of purging that shame, I was able to open my heart and to receive my dragon mother into my embodiment. And I was told, I'm just now seeing why original innocence was the purpose of this talk today. I was told every dragon needs her temple. And I knew that to be true. I knew that. But I still wasn't quite yet ready to receive it. I didn't feel fully worthy of it yet. And that my intention for last year was to be fully supported. That was my overarching intention for the year. And I saw in that journey how fully supported I had always been, even in the moments of suffering and pain and being traumatized and being abused, like how every person in my life to that point, everyone had been supporting me in coming back home. There was at some level a soul contract that was at play that I couldn't remember, but in that moment I remembered. I was shown. And I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed, and my heart opened and opened, and I felt so much. I was able to feel so much of the pain that had never been safe to feel before, that I had never given myself permission to feel before. And to be able to see through new eyes this truth that I had always been supported. And in that, a return of my innocence occurred as I had purged that shame in the Garden of Eden. And then fast forward to having this experience with my husband where, he just, with such sacred reverence, gazed at my pussy. And I'd never experienced that before. I could just feel his love as he looked at me in that way. And a part of me also was restored, another layer of my innocence restored. And after this temple was built, so my intention for this year has been receiving. So I go back to this message that I sent out this morning, and I said, I am deepening into my receivership. And I am asking for any of you to be willing to support us in our mission and sharing our work with those that with your communities, and letting them know what your experience with us has been, what your transformation has been like. I've never been able to ask anything like that in the past before, right? Because I was going to do it all on my own and I didn't need anyone. And that was my story, and I felt unsupported, and I never was willing to receive from people. Even when they offered to me, I was like, nope, I got it. Raise your hand if you can relate to that, right? And that has to do with that not feeling worthy of receiving, and that's connected to this innocence that I'm speaking of, our original innocence, our original purity, innateness. And it's connected to our sacredness. It's all I would say the return to sacredness, in the return to sacredness, remembering how sacred we are, how sacred everything is coming back to the original innocence is first and foremost, which is why it's actually the first portal in the erotic mother that we are going through this month. This month's theme, this month's portal is original innocence. And so we actually on Tuesday are going to be having our online retreat to make that journey together. So if anyone's interested, you can reach out to me and you can hop in and catch up on last month's replays. We're just starting month 2 of a 12-month journey together. So, yes. So as the temple was built, of course, there was going to be a deepening into my own original innocence experience, completely unbeknownst to me, right? I just follow my intuition and I don't always know where it's going to take me. That's how my husband and I have created all that we have. I would say we have 2 temples. We have our Temescal, which is literally the womb of the primordial mother. And we have the dragon temple, which is where you get to reclaim and rebirth and remember your dragon. This is where you get to embody your dragon mother. It's been absolutely profound here. This is the space where women come who they have felt outcasted and crazy, and they know that they are magical beings, but nobody else can fully see, or they can't fully see. They want to bring this into the world, but they don't know how or where, or there's so much, people are going to think I'm fucking crazy. They're going to persecute me. And there's all of these different layers. And yes, because that happened to us. That happened to us and our souls and our cellular DNA. And we remember those. And so we have to work through those woundings in order to birth forth the purity of our gifts and who we are here to be in this lifetime. And remember the soul contracts that we made when we decided to come back again. And that's what we do here in this temple. And like I said, step 1 is remembering your original innocence. And this is what Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene were doing. This is what they were doing, you guys. This is the only path back to love. Back to love is through your original innocence. You cannot bypass this step. You cannot pass go. Like, you have to move through this. And there is deep grief and sorrow and pain and things that must be faced in order to call this part of us back. But I promise you, it is so worth it to remember. To purge yourself of that shame is to be free again. It is such an act of liberation, and it is such a heart-opening experience. You can't not open your heart, de-armor your heart. You cannot not do that when you return to your original innocence. But yes, it's a vulnerable place. And yes, it's a little tender and raw and maybe even scary at first. But as you learn to walk from that place, from that embodied place of your innocence and your open-heartedness and your pure-heartedness, you begin to develop healthy protection, healthy discernment, right? No longer having these aspects of you pushed down into shadow and bringing them back to the light, even your darkness, even embodying your darkness. I'm telling you what, that has been deeply, deeply liberating for me. And I was just messaging my husband about this. I was like, I had this experience with this guy at the pet store, and I could tell that he was hiding things. And I had my daughter, who's beautiful and pure and magnetic and gorgeous and just has that radiance and light to her. And my little son, I had him, like, they're 7 and 9, and I had them with me. And I looked this man dead in his eyes to say, I see you. I know who you are. And he could not keep contact with me. He immediately shuddered away. And I'm like, yep, And I told my husband, I was like, I did that to like establish dominance over him and to let him know who he was fucking with and to like not even think a dirty thought. I mean, total creeper vibes from this person. I know you all know exactly what I'm talking about. And I made a couple of other comments too to kind of let him know, like, we're not the people you fuck with. Like, don't even think about it. And I was like, oh my God, I kind of scared myself a little bit. And my husband's like, welcome to the dark side, babe. And I'm like, he goes, I'm not scared of you. And I was like, maybe you should be. Maybe you should be. Partially teasing, partially not. But also, like, it's kind of like that, you know, when we're talking about innocence, it's like we also, yes, there absolutely has to be a healthy protection mechanism in place for that, right? So I'm just sharing some of this because there is a lot of dichotomy to it and there are a lot of little nuances to work through, and I'm not going to go super into all of it, but this is what we're going to be working through inside of the erotic mother, and this is what we're going to be experiencing even in the Temescal that we have planned for this Friday. It's like honoring your temple. You know, and honoring your temple is honoring the sacredness and honoring your innocence and purging where there are distortions still within you and purifying them and releasing that shame. And maybe that is through forgiving yourself, and maybe that's through forgiving others. Maybe that's seeing where you violated yourself and acknowledging where others have violated you. And I will say that that has been a huge piece of my own work. I feel like we may have touched on that a little bit in the last video, but what's come through more recently is that there was an experience that I had in my first year of college, and I was away. I moved out of state to Florida and went to a small junior college down there on a full softball scholarship. And there were many situations, but there was one in particular where I was like basically set up to be the entertainment for a basketball recruit. And I was not aware of this at the time. It wasn't until years later that actually another boyfriend of mine brought it to my attention, because he had also been involved in collegiate level sports and he understood how this worked. I was completely oblivious that this was even like a thing. And the coach had actually orchestrated this with other players, orchestrated for this recruit player to basically like hook up with me. And I was so oblivious. Like, I was so naive. And I was also exploring my sexuality, and I was exploring like some of my dark kinks and just letting myself be expressed in that way. And ultimately ended up being extremely, extremely humiliated and violated after the whole thing was said and done. And I just remembered feeling so much shame, so much shame. And we actually had an experience. We facilitated a session last week that really activated this for me to go deeper into it. And I was like, oh, wow. And seeing another woman navigating this, like, activated that deeper level of innocence and purity within me and showed me where a piece of my innocence had been taken from me in this experience where, you know, I was exploring myself and I was very naive and I didn't fully know. And I was like, I put myself in a situation with people who did not have pure intentions, where I was just like, ooh, let's have fun and let me explore and be free. But they wanted to take and they wanted to exploit. And I couldn't discern that at the time. And, also a part of me liked the danger of it. Part of me liked that. And it ultimately caused a lot of harm for my person, for myself, for my heart, for my sacredness, my pussy, all of that. And so I had an opportunity to really like work through that last weekend as a result of that coming up. And I feel like the temple has really created that space, for me to be my full self and for some of these things to come up and for it to show me where, oh, here is where there's a little piece there and a little piece here, right? And so there's many, many layers to this, essentially, is what I'm offering for you to see here in this journey. And this part of it has been tender, but also much quicker. It hasn't been such a long, drawn out grieving and mourning process. And I would say I'm still in a bit of the process, like kind of at the tail end, where there's like a reclamation of power happening still in this moment, but I'm getting there. And I'm gaining deeper and greater access to my yes, to my no, like my sacred yes, my sacred no, and to honoring myself and honoring my body and honoring my body temple, my body as a temple. And, I think that that's like, it's all woven in, right? So this coming up Friday's Temescal is literally called Honor Your Temple. And in this month's theme inside of the Erotic Mother is Original Innocence. So this is how it works, you all. This is how it works. When we set this intention for these bodies of work, they move through us, they penetrate us, they activate us, and they purify. They disintegrate whatever is there that is not truth and make space for the purification and for the ultimate like renewal and rebirth and regeneration of our truth and of our power. And so that is the transformation process. And here it is, I'm sharing with you, the literal in-person, real-time, behind the scenes process of it. And it's a beautiful journey. And I would be honored, as would I know my husband, to hold you into any of these tender and beautiful spaces as you are ready to reclaim and restore your own original innocence and reclaim your power as well, and open your beautiful hearts, because to walk with an unguarded heart, oh my gosh, the world becomes a playground of just magic and turn on and co-creation and excitement and joy and bliss and pleasure. And yes, there are still things that are hard and challenging, and the dichotomy of life is still here. But when you can keep your heart open and walk with an open, pure heart, life is never the same. Everything you desire is yours, because you know how innately pure and worthy and sacred you are. And you know that everything you desire, it's already yours. It's already yours. This is the power that we wield, right? And this is just the path to that. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? I'm trying to, it's not showing me any comments really, if there are any. Sometimes I don't see them until afterwards. But if you have any questions or you have any comments, please leave them in the chat or in the comments, and I'll come back and when the video is over, and I'll touch base, or I'll come back and respond is what I'm trying to say. If you know of anyone else who could use this work, or who's ready to do this like deeper level healing, this is not like newbie level work. This is very deep. This is very, very profound. This is like, I just came across this book, you guys, literally called Savage Awakening. Something like The Initiatory Path of the Dragon Mother. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's a fucking savage awakening, all right. And, you know, I do have like people who are like, oh my gosh, like stepping into your work is really scary and this and that. And yeah, it might be, because facing our truth is scary. And stepping into tender spaces is scary. But the reality is, it's also a reclamation of your fucking power. Of your power. And it's a remembrance of who you are. And it's like an honoring of your divine mission and who you're here to be. So there's such a greater, there's such like a greater thing at play. Like, I have opened my channel. Before I stepped into this, I said, I opened my channel to you. Please, like, bring through me whatever you would have me to share today, right? Whatever they need to hear from you through me. And so here I am. And this is what I have done for a very long time now, as I have offered myself as that vessel, as that channel, to bring forth this work of the divine, while also having my totally human experience and knowing that they both get to exist. Yeah. Okay. Well, may each of you, from listening to this, have your own return to innocence in whatever way that may be. And sometimes the activation of this conversation can be very, very potent. So if you do begin to have that experience and you need further support, please reach out and let me know, let us know. We are here for you. All right. I love you. Thank you for coming to Temple Talk, week 2 of the 6-week series. And we'll be back again next Sunday at the same time, 11 a.m. Central. And next week, Edmundo will be with me again, and we'll be sharing more. All right. And let us know again if you have any questions. In the meantime, we are here to answer and support you in any way. All right. Love you so much. Bye.